Hello, everyone. Future or sort of future Mike here. I just want to come up quick before this episode started and give context that me and Auri's track record for recording a podcast related to Nintendo news that you were about to listen to was recorded literally 24 hours before important Nintendo news was announced, like this tweet from Furukawa that tells us that they're going to be having a June Direct and that they are also going to be giving us news about the Switch 2 releasing later this year, or not releasing, but giving us information about it and officially unveiling it sometime this year. So this was literally not even 24 hours had passed since us recording this podcast, and we kind of do some kind of predictions. So, that happens, is what it is. I think it's pretty incredible because, we only have this podcast so often these days, and it still somehow gets invalidated almost immediately whenever we do it. It's just always very silly. But just want to give you that heads up before the episode. I didn't want to just, it's like, our regular podcast size. And we talk about a lot of other stuff too, like other Nintendo news, and as well as games we're playing on Nintendo Switch as well. So there's plenty of other stuff there, but I just want to give that context if you start hearing us rambling about, we don't know what Nintendo news is happening, and they don't have, or what games are happening. It's because we recorded it before they actually gave us all that news a day after. So, it happens. There you go. Thanks always for just, listening to us and hanging out with us regardless of us having a horrible track record with Nintendo news. But enjoy the episode, and we'll have another one soon, probably early June, reacting to all the stuff in the Direct. So thanks again, everybody, for watching or listening. Later. Welcome back, everybody, to another trip to Nintendoland. That's right, we're back. We've been away for a little bit longer just because we're in the dry spell of Nintendo, I would say, for sure. So, we are now going to play catch up a little bit because now we're getting closer to that summertime, usually when Nintendo has some bigger news, and gaming in general has bigger news. So we thought we'd come back together. Hello, I'm Mike Burgess. Ari O'Neill is with me as well.
Hi.
We're going to talk Nintendo related stuff. We're like, this episode will be a little bit of a catch up. So if you're somebody that like follows a lot of gaming news already, like a lot of this stuff will probably be things you've already heard. That is news wise we're going to cover, but also like some cool indie titles have been what I would say carrying the Switch in this first half of the year, at least for me in terms of games I want to play. So that's been pretty cool. So we'll definitely talk about a couple of those later in the episode. But but before we get into all the news and stuff, Ari, I wanted to get your like Nintendo vibe check. I feel like we're kind of definitely in the same headspace of like, yeah, we know there's not really a lot of games and stuff happening except for Paper Mario in a couple weeks, and that's kind of like the only really Switch game I've kind of been interested in a while, and we're getting close, so that's gonna be exciting for sure. But for now, like, have you really, like, I guess just, we're playing indie stuff, and that's kind of been all we've really been doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still very into the Switch. I'm still having a great time. There's a specific game that we're going to talk about later that I'm like,
yeah,
I have to like stop myself from playing it because I like it too much, which is always like a good sign, and it's like perfect for the pick up and go and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm fully. They're putting out those like breakdown trailers for Thousand Year Door remake now, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's get this going.
Yes, yeah. There's been some really great like trailers and
previews. As well.
Yeah, there's some previews some websites did that make it sound really cool. It seems like they're doing everything right by it. By like, they're not changing a lot. They're keeping a lot of things that were like perfect and authentic for that game, but like adding like little tweaks. Like I saw people were saying like there's now like a quick swap for partners that like it sure brings a little reticle around a Mario with all your partners on it, and you can just like select and it'll just kind of hot swap them onto you, which I think is pretty cool that's happening, and they can do that. And then the other thing I heard is that there is a badge you can get in game that is like it's free to equip, or it doesn't cost anything to equip if you're familiar with the game, and then that will make it's a GameCube badge, and it'll just turn on the classic music. There are the original versions of the music from the GameCube version of the game, But of course, there's all new remixed music, and I shared a track with you the other day, and I was like, yes, wow, there's like it's pretty incredible how good it sounds. Like particularly there's like a Rogue Port like remix that plays now, or like an updated version of it. Yeah, so I was like, oh my god, this so good!
Like from
Holy crap!
The
I can't wait.
It's like it's crazy because like you fellow 1,000 Year Door fan, like the Paper Mario people are truly the bottom of the barrel that Nintendo. It's like Star Fox, F-Zero, like down in the bottom, and then Paper Mario just like somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere
at least
in
we
there.
Still get games.
Yeah. They might not be the games we necessarily want, but at least they are trying to put out some stuff.
Like hearing just like this fully redone soundtrack it's crazy. I cannot believe that this game is real, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like I was even replaying it like a little last year, just because like I was hankering for it,
Mm-hmm.
That badge, the GameCube badge that makes the music go classic, is 1 coin, and you can buy it from the badge shop. I saw in a preview.
Yeah.
So
very cool.
They're doing it right, and I think that's a really great way to integrate that setting into the actual game. I mean, I'm so excited. I have it pre-purchased, I'm like fully corporate chill for Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door specifically. And, like with everything, all these games that have come to Switch, I'm just so excited. So many people have not played this game.
Yeah.
So many people are going to be like, oh my God, the Glitz Pit is the greatest single chapter of any RPG I've ever played.
Yeah, hanging out. Or the I think Glitz Pit is also the train still too, right? Like that train sequence is a part of Glitz Pit, or is that before that?
Glitz Pit is chapter 3. That's like the wrestling.
Yeah, the arena, and I just remember
Excess Express. That's chapter 6.
Chapter 6. Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember which order everything is because I've played Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door a number of times, but not like super recently. And like one of the things where I was like kind of glad I didn't just like so I can kind of experience like sort of fresh-ish with this like like fully updated version. I'm kind of really excited to just like hop into it and like remember stuff and hear like the music and see all the updated visuals and stuff. It so far has been really cool. So that's obviously both very excited for that. Pretty soon, it's a couple weeks from this podcast. We'll probably have. More than likely, we'll see. We don't really know what Nintendo's planning for that summer time frame. In the early June Direct is usually what we get every year. We don't know if we're gonna get that, frankly, but we'll wait and see. We'll try and make some probably later in the episode, maybe make some predictions or think of what we're gonna see for that. But if that does happen, then we will probably have another episode talking about Paper Mario and all of that news. Otherwise, we'll probably just talk about Paper Mario and whatever else in that June time frame we'll come back for. But I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a roundup for news stuff that has happened since our last episode, because I think the last episode we did was like end of February, I think, or early March. It's been a little while. So we did have Switch games come out since then. We have
the double back to back.
Yeah, that's when we had the Pokemon Presents and stuff. Games have come out, Switch games have come out. I think we got Mario vs. Donkey Kong and Princess Peach Showtime and Endless Ocean. I think those games were just generally ended up not really being up our alley fully. At least for me personally, Princess Peach seemed like people generally liked that, but it seemed like it was a game that is more geared towards a younger audience, so I don't know if it was worth me personally wanting to spend $60 on that kind of experience for myself these days. But I'm sure it seemed like people at least have enjoyed it. It doesn't seem like it's a bad game, just a game for me, and that's cool.
Yeah,
so that's kind of also why. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I did play the demo for it, which was I guess kind of just the intro, and it's it was the Sword Fighter Peach and the Baker Peach. It was cool, seeing the different ways that they integrated that stuff into the actual game. But yeah, I mean, it was like what you said. I just came around to do I want to spend $60 on this right now? When I'm playing Dragon's Dogma 2, when I'm still trying to finish Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
That I spent $70 on both of those games. So it's okay, yeah, I think I'll just wait. And I hope to play it at some point, but it does seem very good for hey, you're, a young person that wants to play a Nintendo game, maybe don't go all the way hard on like a very difficult Mario game. This is a great
Yeah.
entry point. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It definitely seems like on that kind of Kirby level for sure. That's like
Yes.
a good, like, it's
Hmm.
kind of like a good, like, entry point for like younger players to top into. So that's cool. But, we'll see. But yeah, there was other kind of general news that have been popping off recently. Like, of course, everybody, including us, are waiting with bated breath to just finally hear them say the words Nintendo Switch 2 and what that officially means. But of course,
Hmm.
there's been rumors and things like that. So I have what I would call a rumor slash like weird little info roundup here. And it's a couple articles I have pulled up. One is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Another one's from Ollie Welsh over at Polygon. I'm going to go through the Ollie Welsh one because I think he includes a lot of the things in the VGC article, which is kind of the latest news we've heard about the Switch 2, which that is apparently in some manufacturing like company or like report, they found out that the Switch 2 is not going to have the sliding detachable Joy-Cons as the current Switch does, but it's going to have actually magnetic attaching Joy-Cons in some shape or form. And that is, I guess, that is just to make them more sturdier, because I know that like that those kind of like slide rails could be definitely messed with a
Yeah.
lot on the current Switch.
They were not great, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. So this seems like this is going to be a little bit of a step up from that, but it does seem like because of that, the Joy-Cons that for the current Switch, they'll technically will be usable, but not, you won't be able to just easily attach them. Is kind of how it's sounding because of that, where it'll just be like you're undocked and you got the two in your hands and you can use them that way on the Switch 2, and that's kind of what people are thinking. And then that way you're still gonna have to go get some new Joy-Cons, womp womp. But
Yeah.
that's
I
it's not the end of the world for me personally. But
No, I think that this is cool. Magnetic charging as well is like much more popular and stuff now. But I don't know if you had this same image, but in my head, I'm just like, what if someone just comes and like palms down the center of the Switch while you're holding the Joy-Cons and just boop, it just falls right out. Maybe
yeah,
that's like me thinking high school bullies still exist in my life. But I don't
yeah,
know
I
if they
know,
do.
right? Yeah,
And someone would have to like know it's like, oh, that's a Switch 2 with the magnets. I know exactly what to do with this. But I just like had that fear of like, is there like a lock or something that we can at least make sure they're on for now? Like,
yeah,
I don't know,
for sure.
something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to go a little bit more into this Ollie Welsh report. So the name of the report, or the site that was doing this blog, is called MobaPad. So basically, I have a thing that was on. It was all about, the report was all about third-party manufacturer and Switch peripherals and controllers. So they've done that before. So they've kind of corroborated stuff in the past. But MobaPad says the new Joy-Cons are larger and feature additional buttons, new buttons on the left and right sides, perhaps to control the magnets, plus a new function button below the home button on the right Joy-Con. The SL and SR buttons, the buttons which serve as L and R on the Joy-Cons, are also being used as a sorry, let me read that again. It says, plus the new function button below the home button on the right Joy-Con. The SL and SR buttons are basically the buttons that are L and R. The Joy-Con attachments are now made from metal. And Moped also confirmed that HD Rumble is still enabled through dual-axis linear motors. So there
I
you
like
go.
HT Rumble. I
So
think that's
HE
a
Rumble
good feature.
lives on, and it would make sense. That it would make, again, it makes sense for like another point in the direction that this is hopefully going to be a fully backwards compatible console. And there are some games that still use HD Rumble on the Switch, so that stuff will still luckily work. But this is what else he has to say. Mohead says the console is fully backwards compatible, including the physical game cartridges for Switch, as well as digital games. The existing Pro controller and Joy-Cons are supported by the new machine, although presumably the Switch 1 Joy-Cons can't be attached to the console due to the new magnetic system. Mopad says the Switch 2's dock will use the same USB-C connection as the existing dock, support 4K display resolution, and feature minor changes in appearance. Confusingly, the company also mentioned the new dock having a damping bracket on the back, allowing for a greater range of adjustable angles, which sounds like it might actually refer to the kickstand on the back of the console itself. And then Mopad also confirmed early reports that the Switch 2 will have a larger 8-inch screen supporting 1080p. So I think that's the actual physical handheld.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, all of that stuff sounds pretty positive to me. And again, they said like Mopad apparently had originally reported on other third-party Switch peripherals, so they've like had a track record of being like, you know, somewhat correct with stuff in the past. So, you know, if all of that is, you know, again, I think we've also had heard similar things in previous passing about, like, you know, it being potentially backwards compatible in a full sense, and, you know, having a slightly bigger screen. So I feel like those are definitely things we've heard before, right? In some shape or form. So this all still sounds pretty good. So as long as these, you know, everything continues, we keep hearing this, and once Nintendo gives us official word, finally, this all sounds pretty good to me for a Switch 2.
Yeah, I mean, like, check all the boxes, dream come true, right? The only thing, like, I'd love hard confirmation on is, like, will older games run better on the Switch 2? Presumably, yeah, but is there going to be some kind of upgrade system? Is that something, like on PS5 and stuff, that the developers have to opt into for third-party games?
Right.
Is that something that Nintendo is going to do for their first-party games? Obviously, like, you know, that initial demo that people got at Gamescom last year, it was like a Breath of the Wild demo at a higher fidelity. So just let me play Tears of the Kingdom at 60 FPS. It's like literally all I need.
Yeah, just as long as some of those games, come back in 60 frames or higher resolution.
Speaking of which,
that'd be very nice. Yeah.
Like the one controversial thing about this Thousand Year Door remake situation is that it runs at 30 FPS instead of 60 FPS like the original GameCube one did, which if I gotta give 30 frames per second to have that game again in some feasible way, I will do it. It'd be cool though if this Switch 2 could run it at the
60 like it would. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I was gonna say I definitely heard people talking about that too. Apparently it's gonna be running at 30, and like immediately I remember watching having watched the trailers for the game and seeing all the other like the back and like the comparisons. Like I can live with it just because of how nice of a update it looks to that game, because like
so lovely.
It's like it's a like legitimately big visual upgrade to that from that first game in a way that I didn't even realize it at first. Because you kind of first see it and it kind of just looks like how you remember it. Then I remember people doing a lot of like side-by-side comparison, being like, oh wow, yeah, this is like a significant like visual update to this game. That's pretty impressive. So I can live with 30. But yeah, if the potential future of having that kind of not only backwards compatible, but like the games are, you know, enhanced a little bit for that new console would be very nice. For sure. So I'm skimming through this Ollie Welsh article. It looks like it's largely a lot of the same. They did definitely some. I think that was kind of like the biggest info from that, was hearing about those kind of switch things from those. You know, some of it was a little bit more speculative of like, hey, will it actually be called Switch 2? We don't really know, but you know, it could be called something else. Who knows? But you know, Switch 2 makes sense. But you know, I could see it also being called something else completely. And then will the Switch 2 be a hybrid handheld console? Like again, it seems like multiple sources have said yes, it's going to be that. Screen's going to be 8 inches compared to the current Switch's 6.2, and the OLED also has a 7-inch screen, so it's going to be a slightly bigger screen across the board. Again, you know, everyone's kind of, you know, originally supposed to be this year. Remember back in those days when we thought that was, and our dreams were quickly dashed early into the year.
Of January.
Yeah. But yeah, now we're looking at, again, people are, I think, now thinking of that, like, hey, the original March timeframe for that the original Switch was a pretty successful place for them, because they also launched, of course, with a lot of a big title like Breath of the Wild, and had like a good lineup of games. So it seems like a lot of people just think at this point, because it's been pushed into 2025, that is what they're going for. They're going to have some really big big premiere title at the launch of that thing, and then probably a lineup of other games that'll come through the rest of the year. So if they can match that original Switch kind of lineup for next year, yeah, for sure, that's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be great. Yeah, I think like a Zelda game, potentially a Mario game, Mario Kart, and Metroid Prime 4, and you're set. Like, boom.
Pretty much. Like, and that's definitely what I'm thinking too. Like, I was thinking like get a big Mario, have the big Mario game be kind of like the launch title is what I'm gonna guess. Big new 3D Mario. That's probably gonna be the launch title is what I'm gonna guess. And then like maybe some potentially be incredible to see some new Mario Kart game within the first year of Switch 2. I'd really be excited for that.
Me too.
Even if I don't expect it to be like some massive Zelda game, but like some kind of new Zelda thing, like a remake. Yeah, I would be totally down for that. Some other kind of weird surprise, like we know. We have like stuff like weird like Mario Rabbids games that have come from Ubisoft. Maybe we could see something of that scale from like maybe a different studio or developer or something. Be pretty cool. So just stuff like that would be neat, like, for sure.
Even like something like Sea of Thieves making the jump, right, with the higher fidelity option would be really cool from Xbox, right? Because obviously that's on PlayStation now.
They could totally do that for sure. Like
wild.
Have that and have like Hi-Fi Rush even too. Like have a couple games of that scale from Xbox there day one. Yeah, that'd be cool. That would.
I know this year is going to end up feeling kind of weird. Although I'm sure they have something for July through.
That's definitely going to be the big ask for kind of the predictions part when we get to that kind of discussion. Like, but we know we have Mario, we have Paper Mario in May, and then we have Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which I think is June or July, and then there's one other thing that I think I'm forgetting that we know is like more like a Nintendo thing, but I could be misremembering that for something else. This is obviously not this year, but we know next year is going to be Pokemon Legends ZA as well, so that'll be another big, like if that's going to end up being like a Switch / Switch 2 title potentially for next year, that could be also a big one for them to have like that cool big Pokemon Legends game. And in the first year, could be pretty big. But yeah, I'm with you. Like there's got to be like something, right? And
Fantasy Life,
which I think that's like October or something.
Yeah,
that's not really like Nintendo first party though. And there's like I think is that new Mana game going to be on Switch 2? I don't remember if it is or not.
I don't think so.
Visions of Mana, I think it's called. Looks great, but I just wasn't sure if I can remember if that was.
I think that's for Xbox Switch and PlayStation. It might just be PlayStation and PC.
But I'll jump ahead to our next news story. I guess I might as well because largely the things that were in this Ollie Welsh article again were things that we're talking about. Speaking of a potential game for this year for Nintendo Switch, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition has been rated by the ESRB, and this is a Switch title. So this is also from Chris Scullion over at VGC. I grabbed this article. Nintendo World Championship NES Edition has received an E rating on the site. According to its description, this is a collection of 2D challenges and platformer games in which players traverse through various modes, e.g., for example, they have speed runs or survival modes. Several challenges involve reaching specific points, while others prompt players to defeat small enemies or survive brief battles. Some games depict pixelated characters using small swords or arrows to strike at enemies. Sounds like a familiar game. Enemies typically get stunned or disappear in a flash. Nintendo World Championship took place in the US in 1990 and had players competing in a bespoke cartridge containing challenges from Super Mario Bros., Rad Racer, and Tetris. The player with the highest cumulative score of all three games would win. So again, this was Nintendo World Champions. Yeah, it used to be like a proper like event they put on. They even did one like randomly. What was that? That was like Wii U era, right? Of like for like and they did like they had like Smash Wii U and like some other games played. But yeah, this used to be a bigger thing in the 90s. Like there was like a big thing because like there was like even like movies and shit about it. I remember it's like weird like 90s, 80 early or late 80s movies where they had like the Nintendo World Championship in them and stuff. But yeah, they made like proper. There used to be for the NES, there used to be like proper cartridges you would get that were like the versions of those games they would play that were like kind of like, you know, challenge versions of those that you would have play specific little parts of each game to do stuff in. So this seems like it is some kind of like new version of that, or what I was also kind of hoping is what it kind of gets close to is maybe like an NES remix like tier of
That's
game.
what I was thinking too.
Of like, I think that would put this in a pretty cool position, I think, potentially. Or if it's even like to go even further than that, of like maybe it's just like a selection of games and you can kind of make your own challenges out of it too, to like do stuff. So maybe it goes almost like a Mario Maker type like route potentially. I don't. There's nothing in this article to says. That's just me like, you know, throwing out ideas. But I think this could be like, you know, I don't think it's going to be a big like $60 like, oh man, I'm there day one kind of thing like Paper Mario is for us, sure. But like, I think, yeah, just having this be some kind of digital thing they can put out in 1 month this year, like, is totally fine, right? Like, I just think this could be a thing that's like at least something to put out. For them.
I mean, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're really hitting the very bottom of the Switch lineup at this point.
Yeah, like this is what they got to do to make it through a year to the Switch 2 after they had to push it back. Like, this is what they got to do, right? So like, you know, it's fine. We'll live with it at the end of the day. But you know, that is something that could come down the pipes potentially. So we'll have to wait and see if it ends up being like an actual release, or if maybe it's just some kind of digital download. Maybe it's some kind of like Switch Online kind of thing. Like what if it's like World Championship 99 or something, and it's just like have a whole bunch of people do challenges at once or something. Like it could be something like that. Like we don't really know to that extent.
That makes more sense to me. I'm thinking about like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker just sitting in some dark corner. Like we can't even just rumor that this is happening.
To say they're actually going to put that out. Yeah, at this point, that's just going to be like, and they're just going to shadow drop that. I feel like because like it's just going to be like here it is, just have it. Here's your Wind Waker.
Princess, take it, I guess. Like,
or like
whatever.
Or like your Metroid Prime 2 HDs. Like I think that's just going to be like here it is.
Please.
Whatever.
Please.
Just have it. Like
to be fair, they shadow dropped Metroid Prime
exactly
remastered,
right. Yeah.
So like, yeah,
they totally could do that for this. So that's kind of where I'm at with those kind of experiences. But yeah, again, you know, we don't know if we have, you know, obviously Nintendo always does something around June. It's pretty common. But, you know, because of the weird nature of this year, like, there's a possibility they don't do anything, and maybe they just go with the, like, we're just going to tweet stuff out, like we did that one year, like, during the pandemic.
Yeah,
we got crazy.
2021, the rough year, dude.
Yeah. So, like, they might just tweet some shit out, and, like, maybe it's just, hey, Zelda Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD is just, like, a tweet one day, and it's like, here you go, have at it. You can get them.
Absolute disrespect.
It could be.
Could be. I mean, so, whatever. If they come out, I will take them. It's fine. Whatever.
I'd be happy to just play through Wind Waker one more time because whatever. Why not? It's a fun game. So I'd be fine with that.
It's weird. It's so weird. They've been easing off the pedal on June for a little while. I imagine like next year it's going to be, you know, pedal to the metal basically.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I hope they do something more substantial than like a partner showcase or something.
Yeah, it would be nice to just like get that vibe check from them of like, oh yeah, here's a couple things we're gonna do. So we'll have to see. So we're gonna, you know, we'll get into predictions. But we have one more news story here I wanted to talk about that happened in the interim, and this is gonna be
everyone pour one out.
Pour one out. This is our eulogy for the Switch or the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS. Their services have now been shut down since I think it was April 9th. Or no, sorry, it was April 9th, yeah. It was April 8th was the actual day here. That was when those servers shut down. So now you can no longer. So there's a couple things to it of like you can still. Let me just read this. It says once as weeks, however, games will only be playable offline. This will particularly impact games with a heavy emphasis on online play, such as the original Splatoon for Wii U. Players will still be able to play offline once online services end, according to Nintendo. It's also said that Pokemon Bank and Pokemon Transporter will retain online functionality, presumably since they are still used by players and use online connectivity as their central mechanic.
Thank you.
Nintendo has also stressed that this only relates to in-game online functionality, meaning it will still be possible to download, update data, and re-download purchased software and DLC from the 3DS and Wii U eShops for the foreseeable future. So there's one extra anecdote. Shout out to I heard this on one of the Jeff Grubb Game S mornings. As apparently when this happened, although they said this factor. What it didn't account for is the Smash Brothers on 3DS, because of how specific the DLC works in that version, where you have to go into the game and then start the re-download process through the game, and so that means that no longer works. So if you do not have if you are in a state where you have to re-download the DLC characters in the 3DS version of Smash Brothers 3DS, you just can't get those even if you bought them. So that definitely sucks. For sure.
Yeah, I gotta check that I made sure I downloaded that. Yeah. I think I did.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, because I actually, maybe it's a hot take or whatever, but I actually really liked that 3DS version of Smash.
It was cool.
It was fun.
Really cool.
Like, obviously it's not the best way to play it, but I actually the one thing I liked is they made that like weird side mode that was essentially just the city trial from Kirby Air Ride.
Smash Run.
Yeah, I think it was Smash Run. Yeah. And that was actually very fun. That was like a fun mode that was unique to that game mode, and I would have rather have seen that than like what we got, that stupid like not like a bad version of Mario Party or whatever that was in the Wii U version. Like, I would have rather
trash.
Would have really preferred Smash Run from the 3DS version on that mode. But it is what it is. So pour one out. Like I was going to mention that of like it's sad. You're just not able to play Splatoon 1 online anymore in any capacity. I guess you can play that single player campaign if you got it from that years. And obviously, Splatoon 2 and 3 exist on the Switch. So, if you really want to play Splatoon, you can play it there. But, end of an era, it's always like kind of sad when these things happen, because it seems like, people always going to scramble to try and back up or archive things potentially, because Nintendo and a lot of game companies like just don't give a fuck about that stuff, or will find ways to resell it to you years later for whatever amount of money they can get out of you. So
I mean, we talked about it last year, like when the shops shut down. Like I went through and spent like $270 or whatever.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into specifics, but like I have like an external hard drive for my Wii U. I like downloaded every digital game, because I wasn't even sure if they would let you re-download stuff. So clearly I was right to not trust them. Let's just pray that I downloaded his 3DS Smash characters in like the off chance 6 years from now when I'm like, I want to play the Smash 3DS version. That I can go like boot it up and try it. But yeah, it's a bummer. This shouldn't happen. I really hope. Obviously, most games except Twilight Princess and Wind Waker and Xenoblade Chronicles X, if anyone cares about that game, and you can get those physically. But most games have come to the Switch, and the Switch is a better platform generally. But I just the PS3 thing that like people talked Sony out of doing, but is inevitably going to happen. It just bums me out anytime this happens. Yeah,
it is. It's unfortunate to see them like just, and they're just not gonna really put any effort into. I guess we could still see a couple of games. Like, I guess granted in this scenario, like they did put a lot of those Wii U games on Switch, but there are still, like you said, a few stragglers, like the Twilight Princess, Wind Waker HD collection, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Star Fox Zero. Like, I don't know, people are super clamoring for that, but it's. Just lives on there. Paper, like there's like the one, there's like the Paper Mario game that's on Switch 2 or on Color Splash on Wii U as well. That never came over. Tons of course. I mean, granted, like none of them had like a lot of online functionality on the 3DS, but there's tons of
Yoshi's Woolly
3DS
World that came
games.
to the 3DS. That was like the only place that it went. That game fucking rips, dude. Listen to the soundtrack of that game if you haven't. It's
for
so
sure.
good.
There's still like tons of great 3DS games to like. You guess you can go play them obviously because you just don't have one. Because you just none of them really had online functionality like that, like a lot of some of the Mario games or some of the 3DS, some of the Zelda games, like you can go play those still at least, but it's still sad that you're definitely losing a big chunk of that. Like I guess like they said the Pokemon stuff kind of still works in some respect. I know I saw this, I don't know super specifics. I don't know where to go, but I saw people. The big one was like Mario Kart 7, also on the 3DS. Like you can't play that online anymore, but people have like figured out a way to make private servers for that game already because people were like Mario Kart. So like that's pretty cool that like there are some people out there doing that kind of stuff and trying to make it work and doing things to keep that stuff alive in some shape or form. So that's cool. But
doing
just
the Lord's work.
But
we
just
appreciate.
Just unfortunate. Yeah, that's they gotta shut it down when I feel like they could keep it going. They could have kept it going for a little while longer, but whatever.
Yeah, Nintendo's got the fucking money. Like let's not pretend Nintendo could have kept this going. They just
or at least like done a little bit more to like put some of those games back on the Switch. Like have those games available more easily on the Switch. Like a lot of the classic games. Like I know they had some classic like WiiWare and RetroWare whatever stuff on Wii U that you could get through that just still has not made its way on Switch either. Obviously like virtual console style stuff that has not made its way onto the online surfaces. Like the Switch has gotten a decent amount of that at this point, but there's still, I'm sure there's stuff you could go look through.
DK64 motherfuckers.
Yeah, DK64 is definitely a big standout for that stuff. And like, I'm sure there's like some Game Boy and DS, or I don't know if the Wii U, I think had some DS games on there.
Yes, it did have DS games.
I'm sure there's like Game Boy games and like N64 games, SNES games that like have not made their way onto the Switch online services yet that were probably available on those, either on the Wii U or on the 3DS that just aren't here yet. So if you just kind of have lost them because you thought, you didn't re-download them or go buy them there, like, you're just kind of like, well, what is your option other than to just fucking pirate them? Like, and that's the reality. Like that's
so don't
that's the do it. And I don't feel bad for. I mean, at the end of the day, like that if that's people's option,
bad, honestly,
if that's people's option, like just do it because like what are you gonna do? Just like wait around for years to see if Nintendo maybe puts it on their service or not. Yeah. I don't know. Like just go
like
play it.
The preservation of these titles, like even if they're just shovelware or whatever, like they existed. It's a record of this time, and people worked on them like dozens, hundreds, sometimes. Like they need. It's more important, in my opinion, that they continue to exist than somebody like cashes a fucking $2 check or whatever. So like, I don't give a shit. Get out there, get them if you want them. You know what I mean?
For sure, 100%. But rest in peace, online services.
Come for this podcast.
Yeah, we're over. It's gonna cut off right here now. We're done.
So over.
It's so over. After we finally got it back on our feet to making stuff, it's over. It's over.
The bingo card is burning.
Yeah, we've burnt it today. I'm just saying, there's a Nintendo guy outside my house right now, just with our shitty bingo cards lit on fire, printed out. Oh God. But rest in peace to those. At least go play those games if you can and enjoy them if you can somehow. But if you missed them, sad days. But let's get into before we can talk about games and stuff. Let's try and get some predictions in here for what the heck we're gonna maybe see from the summer in Nintendo.
All right.
Yeah, I know. I just admittedly, we kind of came together last minute to do these, so we'll do our best to kind of make some predictions here and throw some ideas out. I mean, the obvious thing to ask is like, and I think we both know our answer pretty quick here, but do we think we're going to see the Switch 2 at all this summer? I don't think so.
Probably not. I think that it would be okay if they did. Like
Sure.
I get Nintendo's hesitancy, right? They're probably going to reveal it like October-ish or somewhere, or September, honestly, also makes sense.
Yeah.
And and that's fine too. It's more than likely going to come out in March. I could see it like coming out in May or something, but I feel like March is just such a sweet spot before the end of the fiscal year. It's pretty barren usually. I mean, although February has been pretty fucking wacky every like the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think probably not. I really wish. I think 9 months. Like if they revealed it in June and it comes out in March, I think that is a totally fine amount of time because you can kind of get the ball rolling. I don't think there's anything this fall that's gonna get like eaten up by them announcing the Switch 2 too early.
Yeah, for sure. That even opens up like places to like start showing off their potential Switch 2 titles coming next year, or like being like finally being able to be like, oh yeah, this thing we were already making is also going to be on the Switch 2. Here you go. Yeah. Like I would totally be more than open to seeing it this summer at some point, even in this potential June Direct we might get. It's just I could see the scenario where it's
Nintendo is.
Yeah, exactly. I could see it happening, but also I can totally see it not happening, and then we just are waiting till like the end of this year basically to hear anything about that thing.
If it was PlayStation, that shit would have been announced 2 months ago, right? Like, but it's Nintendo. And to be fair, like their whole strat of like we're gonna announce shit like way close to when it's coming out has worked, and it has worked very well.
Yeah,
I think that's part of like the Switch One's initial success was like that October trailer, the January reveal with launch lineup, and then with the Breath of the Wild trailer, and then Breath of the Wild launch and everything on March 3rd. Boom, and the momentum did not stop, and it was good. But
yeah, I definitely think
they've got a lot of momentum right now. So
yeah, they already have it. But they could. But if they definitely have that. But I think they could also totally just try and recreate that to a certain level and be like even more crazily successful if they can line it up that way. So I think that's what I think that's what's happening here, or at least that's what I would not be surprised by, for sure.
The thing I'm looking forward to the most is the like Nintendo YouTube video that's showing like Bowser helping Bowser Jr. transfer all of his games.
He's like, this is
from Switch 1 to Switch 2.
The Joy-Cons are magnetic. And then you're just like, yay! And Bowser Jr.'s
Jack
like,
Black
yay!
to do the voice for that now, though. Is that, like, what world do we live in where that's like a possibility? Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Black, Bowser tells us how to work the Switch 2. That would be something else.
I would love that.
Honestly, yeah, it would be pretty hilarious. That'd be funny. Yeah, other than that, like, we mentioned a couple things briefly, like the potential for things we could get in the second half this year for Switch 2, or not Switch, but just Switch in general. That would get us maybe a little bit more excited for, potential games. And so, obviously there's the Twilight Princess, Wind Waker HD collection, which would be cool. If we could get that somehow. Nice. The Metroid Prime HDs as well, of getting like two or 3 HDs sometime this year. That'd be really cool. I know there's always that looming, like, the looming rumors of like there's like they always have a Fire Emblem game essentially ready to go and just put that out fucking whatever, and that could just be some Fire Emblem remake that they just throw out at the end of this year because whatever.
Pretty well, like as far as I know, I could be wrong and this could have changed. Pretty well substantiated rumors that a Fire Emblem Fates, I think, no, not Fates, the other one, Awakening remake is just done, and they could just throw that out there anytime this fall.
Just doing that, whatever, and I think that would be a decent thing for people for sure, just to have that. Like any kind of cool surprise indies, like I put the words once again in here, Silk Song. Would that show up? I know like some people would think it might show up in an Xbox thing now at some point because an Xbox showcase has been announced, and that was the last time we saw Silk Song, I believe, was at an Xbox show. But I could still feel it just being just as likely in some kind of Nintendo show as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to come to both. It's going to come to everything out the gate, it sounds like.
For sure. Should we finally see that this summer?
It's going to happen. It's going to happen this year. I do think like this whole thing happened, was it March or April, where like a
It got
page
rated.
listing.
It got rated. Yeah.
It got rated, and a page listing went up on all the major platforms like overnight simultaneously. And then like a few days later, there was like an Indie World Direct announced, and I was like
That poor Indie
convinced. I
World.
was like, this is it. I
Yeah.
know, right?
Every
The
indie.
energy
I
of
mean,
that
to be
Indie
fair,
World was so rough.
to be fair, like every indie world, there's like that inkling of people just going like, eh, and then it
Is
just
this
happened, and then this one got like even more unfortunately like wrapped up because that happened like so like
That
it's
timing
like a
was
couple
rough.
days or like not even like a week before that thing ended up coming out. So people were like, eh, and then. We got nothing out of that. That's where we got Endless Ocean Luminous. That was like the one last thing, and people were, and then that game came out and was apparently kind of a stinker. So, you know,
Boo. Yeah, so, but I do think Silk Song is poised for this year. It makes sense. I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be a good Nintendo game. It'll be on other things, but
yeah,
the
definitely a
first game
game.
did so well.
Definitely a game that I feel like Nintendo could like try and like put in their lineup just to like look at it because it kind of fits well in there, right? You know.
Yeah.
So that I could definitely see that for sure. You know, is there any other kind of games potentially you think would be something that you could see in this time frame that would get you excited for like a fall release from Nintendo, or not really?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like the sports teams, those kinds of things. That's not getting anyone excited at this point after like the Switch
Yeah.
track record of sports games.
Yep.
And I feel like the Princess Peach team kind of like filled that section. I don't know if it's the same team for sure, but
Right.
I just so thinking like wider like that. Level 5 has Fantasy Life I, right? And that's October or whenever.
Yeah.
And so like that's also kind of like a niche. We know that there's no Pokemon game, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But like thank God also.
Yeah,
like,
let
take
'em
a break.
cook.
Please
Yeah.
take longer to make your games. So yeah, I really don't know. I don't know who would be making a game that isn't like clearly working on a Switch 2 game, right?
Yeah.
Like the Mario team,
That's
the Zelda
definitely
team, they're all
the thing.
over there.
For sure. It's just like at this point, it's like a lot of Nintendo's main force are probably in full gear on whatever their Switch 2 titles are. So it's like it's hard to even see like a big Nintendo thing. Like, you know, could we see this like some, you know, that's why I kind of look at like third party stuff of them like potentially bolstering some of that stuff. Like I wonder if that, you know, we learned today that Hades 2 is out in early access on Steam. I know like I think Nintendo has done like some early access releases on their platform. I don't really know 100%, but I just know the original Hades was like so effing successful on the Switch. I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of make that happen faster because
They had like a whole year of exclusivity, right?
Exactly.
Like, it was a
so
huge deal.
like I could see them like trying to pull that with Hades 2 to get that just on there sooner, because it seems like at least like the vibe, I've not jumped into Hades 2 myself yet, but like looking through the Steam page like and reading that stuff was just like this already, they literally say in that thing of just like this game is already bigger than the first game was in its early access like day one release. And that's like fucking mind blowing to me. And it's like it's just like holy shit, and that they're gonna expand it even further. So like if it's already like at that point, I feel like it's safe to probably put that on more platforms if the platforms will allow it, right? Like why not?
Trouble is like just updating it, and the
Sure.
way you update on other platforms is much more difficult and sometimes much more expensive.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So-
Yeah. So maybe they'll hold off for sure. But you know, I don't know. That's definitely where I'm at with the two of just like it's hard to see. I other than like the things we've already mentioned from like the Nintendo side of just like, hey, surprise, like HD ports and things like that will maybe pop up later this year, and maybe that Fire Emblem game. You know, there's not much else I can really think of like how could they get what team could they get together something really fast for. And I just don't see it where it's like, you know, I can see like something of the scale of like we just got Pinkman 4 like last year, so it wouldn't be anything from them. I don't expect anything
We're
from
getting a Paper Mario game this month, which is like right in that pocket, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we're getting the Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, which
That's the other
I
game
don't
in that pocket.
I don't expect we would get like a proper thing for that. Like, maybe they could put, scrounge together some DLC update for some game that, they could fill in something like that, and just like, surprise, here's like an extra like DLC add-on for like, I don't know, like maybe like like Animal Crossing or something. I don't even know. Like, but I doubt that too, because I would imagine they just have that team full steam ahead making that.
Yeah, that's
next
like
one.
a year 2 Switch 2 game, in my opinion. It's like the new Animal Crossing, and like that's a guarantee. So I'm sure all hands are on deck for that, right?
Yeah, so that's definitely the tough thing. It was like, yeah, they couldn't do like, I don't think they could do like surprise like Odyssey DLC or something like that either, because that's probably where the Mario team is at.
Luigi balloon DLC.
Yeah, yeah, something like that, or like, maybe they do like a surprise, like, hey, people, they didn't get Mario Galaxy 2, so maybe they just do like a full HD of that. Like,
that would be
maybe
cool.
There's some team that was able to pull that together in last minute. Maybe they do like some kind of like, I don't know, like, is there some kind of like retro pack they could do? Maybe they could kind of like really go all in on like the Switch Online service and like just put a bunch of games that should be on there at this point and just put them all together as like one big update or something like that. That'd
be great.
Really puts that together, because like you said, like DK64 isn't on there. I'm sure there's other N64 games that have not made their way. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's definitely like they definitely can just. It's like a weird position where like they definitely could surprise us with stuff out of nowhere, but like I also am like not expecting it, because we know of that imminent Switch 2 stuff and where those teams are probably at with developing for games for that stuff. So like I'm not really expecting that, but it's also totally possible that they just come out of nowhere with something and you're just like, oh shit, okay. Surprise, Mario Maker 2 DLC. We didn't forget about it. Here it is. And they just put out like a bunch of, a couple DLC things for that. But I don't know. I have no idea.
There's 3 new Smash Brothers characters.
Yeah, poor Sakurai just like got forced back into the Smash Brothers mines.
Back in the mines,
for like, this random 3 character drop or whatever. But yeah, I just it's hard to know what they're gonna do here for that stuff.
Yeah.
For the year, so like it's hard to pin it down. So
I think like if half of these things end up happening, like the Zelda games, Metroid Prime 2 and 3, Fire Emblem Awakening, if that happens, boom, that's your year. That's fine.
That's good enough. You're right. For sure. Like frankly, to be even more honest, like I think there will be more stuff this year. They can't just like not put anything out. So like there will be something, but like for me, like I'm more than content just getting Paper Mario Thousand Year Door later this month, and then like that's probably be like the most I play my Nintendo Switch this year, regardless, unless they like have like something like really new or later in the year somehow that I just don't think will happen. But I already kind of like, once we heard the Switch 2 was delayed into this year, and like we knew there's Mario, there's Paper Mario. I'm maybe considering Luigi's Mansion 2, but I think that is a $60 game, so that was like already like a meh. I like Luigi's Mansion games, but like for $60 and a 3DS game I already played, and that was like a $40 game on 3DS.
They made me buy that on 3DS because I thought it was getting erased forever. So they're not getting my money again.
Not getting it again. That's right. Maybe they can surprise us with some other HD collections out of nowhere, like, maybe we don't get a Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD, we get like or Ocarina Majora's like HD. That would be fucking cool. Maybe they bring like to do something like that,
the 3DS
or like,
versions, maybe,
or like do like some kind of, I don't know, they don't really have a team to do this, I really think, but like get those Mario and Luigi games in HD and put them on there, like that'd be really cool.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I know like some of those are on the Switch. I think Superstar Saga is on the Switch collection and Switch stuff, right? I think it is.
The OG.
The OG
like
one.
the like Inside Story,
Dream
Team, Paper Jam, like there's like so many of the 3DS ones that like
that'd be really cool.
You have to retweak to like the sideways screen stuff and all that. Like you have to do something for it, but yeah, it'd be so cool to see those again.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Like similar like there's like a handful of 3DS games that I think could be ported with like and it wouldn't be minimal effort, but like you wouldn't have to worry about like having to do like some dual screen functionality for it. Like I think of like the handful of Kirby side scrollers that came out on 3DS that were all pretty decent. Like there was I think it's like Super Deluxe was one, then Robobot, and then I forget what the third one was called. But like, you remember because we like randomly last year got a Kirby HD, the Wii Kirby game got an HD port, so maybe they could just pull one of those out potentially, as well out of nowhere and have that go up on the Switch, because why not? So that's kind of the level I'm looking at, for sure. But we'll just have to see. There could be other interesting third party games that'll be like a big hit on Switch. Like I know like people are still like wondering what the heck happened to that Dragon Quest 3 like HD 2D game that got announced like years ago. Yeah, it got announced like years ago and just has just kind of disappeared. But like the whole doing that Dragon Quest HD 2D was like super cool idea. So like maybe that could just appear.
Chrono Trigger HD 2D game, you fuckers.
Yeah, why not?
Please.
Yeah, seriously. Like why not just have something like that fucking ready to go? Like I'm really surprised they just haven't done that in some shape or form.
It's absurd.
But yeah, just I think that's those would be cool surprises, but I'm not fully expecting them. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I that's again like you said, like I really would be nice if we just got some kind of thing from Nintendo in June, even if it ended up not being like huge surprise announcement reveals or whatever. It was just more of like a vibe check of like, hey, here's the stuff you're gonna get this year from us, and then see us next year.
Please be excited for October.
For October, yeah, for later this year, we're going to talk about our future plans for like our next generation or whatever. It's like, cool. That's all we need.
I know, like it's like the least exciting predictions, but it's like we were really in it. Like, we've gotten so many reports about the Switch 2. It is like so hard confirmed at this point. Like, we just kind of got to wait at this point.
Yeah, we're pretty much just waiting on those kind of details to come out. But yeah, that's kind of all we have for like general news and predictions here. We've been playing some games that are on Switch. I'll admittedly say the two games I have here, I'm not playing on my Switch. That's mostly because one I got a code for to play on the PC, and the other one was I already paid for a subscription on another platform, and it gave me the game essentially like thanks to that subscription, so I'm playing it there. But these are both on Switch. Those are
I played some stuff
another Crab's Treasure and Tales of Kinzera Zao are the two games I'm talking about. But
I've also been playing another Crab's Treasure. I also got code, but also for PlayStation. So
excellent. Yeah, I know, right? Perfect.
Welcome to our
Nintendo podcast.
Hey, whatever. Nintendo, put out a fucking 4K system, and I will play more stuff on your stuff. I promise.
Yeah,
like,
for real.
Truly.
For real. But yeah, why don't you start, Auri, with what you've been playing? I want to hear.
We got to talk about Balatro.
Yeah, I was waiting. I knew you really want to talk about Balatro. So
I really do, and I have had no outlet. I tweeted about it a couple of times, but I think I'm gonna do like a 3-month delayed viewpoints with Cam Koenig. Also, shout out to Cam Koenig, who has joined Irrational Passions since the last episode that we've done. He's on Helm the Tower every week, so that way that show is not just this show, but about Destiny.
Yeah.
Because now this show is about Destiny.
Now, this show will soon be amalgamated into our Destiny show. You're 100% correct.
But when Pokemon stuff comes out, we can have Cam on, and this will be fun.
Yes, for sure.
Fun episodes for sure. But yeah, Cam is also like a big fan of Balatro, and so Balatro, for folks that don't know, is a roguelike deck building game. Stop me if you heard this before. The idea is you're trying to get through rounds, and the rounds are called like blinds, and then there's like a boss round as well that has a modifier on it, essentially.
Okay.
And you're trying to get through 8 rounds of 3 blinds to get through, and that's just like 3 mini rounds within it. And they take the idea of like poker hands, so it's like you can play 5 hands per round, or those numbers can vary a little bit, but. And it's like, okay, I'm going to play 2 pair, or I'm going to play a flush of hearts, or I'm going to play a full house. And depending on what hand you play, you get points, and you just have to hit a threshold of points to get to the next round. So the way that they make it crazy, and I love it, because like to me, as someone who like loves poker, but does not like deck building video games, this is like baby's first deck builder,
Okay.
um, where it's like, okay, between rounds you can go to a shop and you can buy the big cards are like the Joker cards, and those are, you kind of have a hand of Joker cards up to five, at least baseline, and those are your supreme modifiers. So like every time you play an even number card, this is like one of the examples that I really like. Every time you play an even number card, it raises your multiplier by 2, right?
Okay.
And that's huge, right? Because you're getting points for the cards, and then it's being multiplied by a multiplier, and that multiplier is dependent on like what kind of hand it is. The better the hand, the better the multiplier. So anything like you're adding just to the multiplier, or mult, as they refer to it. I was like, what does mult mean?
Molt.
Are we having like
You're
mult
malting,
maker?
malt maxing. I love
Mult
it.
maxing. So it's like, okay, well, a two pair with like low number cards, like a pair of twos and a pair of fours, is like 13 times 4, basically. It's like, okay, well, I used all even number cards, so that's +2 for every even number card. So now that's 13 times 12, or something like that. And it's like, okay, that's a lot more points.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of like then stacking and stacking more and more multipliers on top of that, and then every card can get variants, which I love that
Oh,
they
wow.
integrated this. So it's like a holographic variant, or a polychrome variant, and those have like, okay, if you play a polychrome card, that just adds +10 mult and +10 points, and it's like, oh, okay, like,
Wow.
so
Okay.
again, baby's first card game, right? Or deck builder. It's like, okay, in the shop you can buy a tarot card pack, and this tarot card, because again, it's all cards, everything aesthetically is just cards. So these tarot card packs, it's like, all right, make one of your cards like you're just your two of diamonds, make that into a holographic, or your king of hearts, make that into a polychrome, or whatever, into a glass card, which is like
Whoa.
more points but has a chance to break after you use
Glass,
it.
yeah, glass cannon. Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so like you can have like a deck of 52 cards or more, because you can also like buy just like, I'm gonna get an extra 8 of spades, so spades flushes are easier or something. And then you're slowly warping your deck into like a bunch of holographic or shiny or stone or glass cards and stuff like that. And now you can like create builds that can go really crazy. So like, for example, I had a Joker card. This is my favorite build that I did very well with. Because after you beat like complete the 8 rounds, you can also be like, I just want to keep playing because I really like this
Yeah.
setup, and you just play until you fail, basically, which is
That's
really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
I
You can
had a build
test
where
out
it's like,
builds and stuff.
yeah, and you can see how fucking crazy you can get it, which is awesome. Like I had one where it was like, okay, your straights and flushes now only cost 4 cards instead of 5. And then I had another card that's like, anytime you play a hand that's 4 cards, it adds like ×8 multiplier. And then I like had another hand thing that's like, anytime you play even numbers, like I said earlier, like you get +50, because there's like polychrome, you get +50 points just baseline, and then plus ×8 multiplier on top of whatever you have. So I'm like just playing 4 flush cards, and then you can upgrade a hand, like a specific hand, so like flushes or 2 pair or whatever. You use world cards for that. So like Jupiter is like, make every flush that you play has more base points that you get and more base multiplier that you get. So like once you get to level 9 with a hand, it's like 400 ×8 baseline, and then you're adding all of your extra modifiers on top of that. So I'm like,
Wow.
I play 2 flushes, and then I have 2.6 million points per round, and it's like, this is the fucking craziest game I've ever
Yeah.
played.
Yeah,
is-
that's like the one thing I heard about it is like you just get to these like insane like number get bigger kind of builds
Yeah.
or approaches where you're just like, I heard people were like getting into like the billions of points or whatever because they could just like use the card combinations and things they could do to like just get to this insane level, which is really
Yeah.
really cool. Sounds neat.
That's like the it's exactly what I was going to say too. It's like it's the ultimate play number get bigger number game, and it makes me so excited every time like you get like this 1.6 million point hand, and it's like, oh, that was like one hand I just played. That's really cool, and I guess I'm on to the next round. And then that kind of loops into more difficult modifiers when you get to the boss blind, and the boss blind is basically like you can play how you did before, but now there's going to be some kind of modifier. So like every time you play, it's going to delete 2 other cards from your hand, like the ones that you don't play. Or you can only play 4 cards maximum, or you have to play 2 cards maximum. Stuff like that makes it more difficult. Or for every card you play, you lose money, which is what you use to like buy expansion or card packs and extra things between rounds. So they definitely throw enough curveballs in the mix of it. And then each deck has its own multipliers. So like one is like for every hand you play, you get like an extra $1 or whatever. And like the starting ones are like you get 1 more hand per round, or you get 1 more fold, because you can like select a bunch of cards up to 5 to discard, so you get 1 more discard per round, stuff like that. That's just like simple, that helps you kind of keep the momentum building. But yeah, there's like really interesting things, and I get the feeling, I don't know, because I kind of had to put it down because I was like stayed up till 2 a.m. playing it too much. I get the feeling that there's like some kind of weird metatextual stuff that's really fun. But like a thing I noticed is like your Joker cards are like laid out like in the span of 5 at the top of the screen, and you can like go up and rearrange them. And some Joker cards are like, do the effect that is the Joker card to the right of this card, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna play a flush, and I'm going to have that card over here and get like the extra even number thing, because there's a bunch of even numbers in there. But now I'm going to move it over, and now I'm going to play, a 2 pair, and I'm going to get like the extra one of this instead. So it's like you can kind of like dynamically rearrange things in real time to create different effects as well. So like positioning becomes important, and like whether something is polychrome or whatever becomes important. It's really, really cool. And as someone who's not gotten into a deck builder before, because like the idea of having to remember all my cards and stuff is like really difficult for me to think about, when it is just a deck of playing cards, like it's such familiar territory for me, and it's the things that you're playing are just poker hands. Again, very familiar territory for me, because I used to play a lot of poker. Like it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like condensing deck building roguelikes into a palette that I can understand, and it has me kind of more curious to try out other games like this. So it's like, okay, this is kind of neat.
Yeah, I can
see how this is my gateway drug.
Yeah, the gateway drug of deck building stuff. Yeah, that's cool. That's good to hear that is kind of crossing your threshold, because I also am a person that's like the allure of like a card video game, card deck or deck building related video game just like does not really grab me. And I've tried some, and I've had okay times with some here and there, but like they've never really kept me. And I just I just don't know, they just don't speak to me in that way that they do other folks. But that's cool to hear that like maybe that one, because of its like roguelike nature and stuff, also makes it sound maybe appealing to me as a fan of roguelites. But there's also the massive one that just literally dropped in our on my plate today. So that maybe I'll have to get to Blatcher someday, but it might not be soon. That's cool.
I'm glad I came to it like a month late, and I'm really glad I did, because it was like the thing that got me in was because I, as someone who's kind of not into deck building, it was like, oh, it's poker hands though, and it's like, hey, if you like poker, you should at least give this a try, because it has like that it scratches that itch as well,
right?
And like it kind of is this enhanced version of every poker mini game that's in every JRPG for the last 20 years. And it's like bananas with all these modifiers and stuff. So as someone who likes those mini games in those games a lot, it's hitting for me. It's hitting good, and I am playing it on Switch, and it's great. Like I was just laying in bed playing until 2 a.m. I was like, oh fuck, I
See the
need
time,
to
you're just like
stop.
shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because like a run in that game is like 45 minutes to an hour, and it's crazy.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's cool though. I'll probably keep a look at it because I've definitely heard other folks like get really into it as well.
It's great. Highly recommended. It's like $18. Also, great deal.
Yeah, nice. Cool. But yeah, that's on Switch and PC. Is that on everything or is it just Switch PC?
It's on everything.
Okay, nice. Bellachero. But yeah, I'll talk about Tales of Kenzera Zao because that's what I've been playing. I was actually playing that earlier today, and I started over this past weekend. So I just got into it, set up an axe, and I just started Act 3, and it has 4 acts, it looks like. So it seems like I'm like just past the halfway point of it.
Okay.
It is a Metroidvania. It is the first from this studio. I don't remember the studio's name, but I know it was it had like a big showing at the Game Awards when the main creator behind it, kind of talked about it, like this being kind of a more personal story of like him and his like kind of road going through grief after he lost his father. That definitely comes through in the game because you play as the character you play as, his name is Zhao, and like it is like a fictional version of this Africa, or like kind of Afrofuturism, I think is kind of the term for it, where it's it kind of has that like Black Panther aesthetic where you have kind of that African plains and they're kind of in that tribal outfits, but then there's kind of all this like futuristic-y looking stuff as well alongside that. Nice looking game for sure. The art is very well done. I like how pretty it is and a lot of good color. Even in like some of like the drearier areas, it has like some good vibes. But yeah, it is. It's definitely gonna be an interesting year for, I think, Metroidvanias. And I don't know if this one is gonna be able to stand up to some of the ones that have come out, and we have the looming threat of Silksong this year as well. I don't think this game is living up to that, but I still am having a pretty good time with it. I would put it more in the camp of like it is a much more like a linear narrative focused Metroidvania because of the kind of the facts of the thing. The whole setup is you are playing as Zhao, who's a shaman who has kind of made a sort of deal with the god of death, and you have to basically go find three spirits and help them kind of pass on to the afterlife. And then once you do that, he will essentially, the god of death will essentially give you back your father, who they've lost in the game. Zhao is lost in the game to an illness. So that is kind of the whole setup. And so that then comes into the Metroidvania aspects of like you're kind of going to these zones, and I would say like these zones are pretty linear as far as as Metroidvanias go. There's not a lot of like there is a little bit, but it's a lot of like you're kind of going naturally through these areas, and the areas are more designed around like an ability you get pretty much as you get into an area or like throughout that area. And it seems like it's more kind of like centralized in these zones where like kind of the big zone I just finished, which is Act 2, which is like this foresty area. It kind of just plays through naturally. And then I noticed like you hit a couple points and there's like, oh, this is very much a grapple point looking thing throughout the zone, and that clearly will allow me to get into these other areas, but I haven't got it yet. Oh, look, I went through kind of the natural direction I can go in this area, and the story bit happened, and I got the grapple ability, and now I can go into the next kind of part of this area to continue the story. So it seems like the Metroid abilities aren't really like again easy to compare to Prince of Persia from earlier this year, where that stuff like was more about like you could kind of explore these zones more naturally, and then you would stumble across an ability, and then that would let you kind of continue on, rather than like in this game it doesn't feel like there's a lot of like it's not as large in scale as that game, which I think is like a good and bad thing in that same regard, because like there was a lot of just like big, I feel like bloated areas in some aspects to the Lost Crown that this game like doesn't have, but because it is much tighter, there's not a lot of like a lot of these secrets that you're kind of finding are like kind of more just like really basic collectible things where it's like, oh, there's this little statue that kind of gives you like a voice line that is like a memory of you having like a conversation with Zhao having a conversation with his father. So it's a lot of like things like that, or you're finding like trinkets, which are things you can equip that give you kind of like a passive ability. A lot of the actual there's like a lot of the core Metroidvania upgrades are very much like on this like narrative path that you're going on. So like getting that grapple point like felt like a pretty natural direction to go, and I found it, and that let me then explore this area that I was in larger, and that's like similar to another ability where it's like the whole conceit of the game is you have Zhao has like a sun mask and a moon mask, and you can essentially like tap a button and that swaps between them, and that also changes the abilities you have. So when you have the moon mask on, you see basically it's like rapid fire, you can shoot blasts, like little energy blasts out, and then you can also charge it and hold it, and then it'll shoot into like a multi-burst that'll shoot out all the blasts at once. And then you have like a skill tree for each mask that you're getting like skill points to do just by like doing combat and stuff in the game. So like a lot of the upgrades for those masks are just from like doing combat in the game, and that'll give you experience to then go spend those skill points on abilities. So you're not really like finding that stuff out in the wild as much combat wise. So it's and then the sun mask is like it's all melee focused. So you have like these two little swords. You can slice and dice, and then there's like upgrades to make it so like, oh, when you do an attack, you'll get like a little flash, like blinking flash on your character that'll make it so it's like more of a perfectly timed attack. So if you're doing those, your attacks are doing more damage while you're doing that. And then you get stuff like, oh, here's a big slam, aerial slam that you can do with them. And then I've seen like later in that skill tree, it's like, oh, now the aerial slam, when it hits an enemy, it sets them on fire to do fire damage to them and stuff like that. So it seems like a pretty natural like combat progression just through all the skill trees, and it seems like the Metroidvania aspects are more Metroidvania style unlocks are much more like narrative driven to unlock. So I think that'll be like a thing dependent on how you enjoy your Metroidvanias. If you're somebody who's much more about just openly exploring and discovering stuff, this game doesn't feel like it has as much of that as like a Metroidvania, like your Prince of Persia's or your Hollow Knights and stuff like that. Like it does not have as much of that open exploration or like even like optional areas to go like randomly stumble into like those games have. It definitely seems like it's a much more focused experience, and I still think it's enjoyable though, because I think like the narrative stuff that is there is intriguing, because it is again this story, this kind of. You can tell, I don't know if there's going to be, like, I'm assuming there's going to be maybe a later game twist that I'm maybe starting to surmise now at the point in the story of the game, so I won't, like, spoil that by any means, but it definitely feels like, it's a lot of Zhao trying to, having these moments with these spirits or other things happening and characters he's meeting along the way that's, like, him processing his own kind of grief in this moment, so that definitely seems like it is, I'm waiting for it to kind of build up to a bigger moment with that stuff. That seems like that'll be coming like in these later acts that I'm now starting to get into. So we'll just have to see where that goes. But it still has been interesting, and all of it's like voice acted and everything. So it's pretty well done. Like I'm pretty sure the character that you play as Zhao is voiced by I think his name is Abukar. He's like an actual actor who's been in like television shows and other things like that. So you can tell like he's like definitely a decent voice actor in that regard. So yeah, Tales of Kinzera Zhao, I think it's a pretty fun Metroidvania, but I think in a world where it has to kind of stand up to things like Prince of Persia: Lost Crown or potential Hollow Knight Silksong this year, I think it'll definitely be kind of maybe it's not looked at as highly, unfortunately, but I think it's still pretty fun.
What's your hour count at?
I want to say I'm probably around like 5-ish hours, 5-6 hours, I want to say. I heard people saying it's like total. It's probably like 11 to 12 hours.
Okay.
So it seems like it's
That's not bad. I'm like not
yeah.
upset about that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Compared to like, a much bigger Metroidvania experience that would get in like Prince of Persia, like having a smaller bite-sized thing. And again, like I said, it is on. I believe it's on everything. If you have specifically, I think it is for this month. If you have the I think it's like whatever the tier is of PlayStation Plus. I think it's like the middle tier.
Extra.
This game is just included in that, so you can just download it and you don't have to buy it. So that's how I'm playing it now, which is cool. But yeah, cool. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth checking out if you're a Metroidvania fan for sure. But obviously there's a lot of other ones on the market. So worth checking out.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's on my list. I'm gonna play it for sure. Knowing that it's shorter makes me want to play it more, to be honest. Now.
Yeah. Sometimes that helps for sure. When we have all these bigger games out there, it is nice, like it's like a little palate cleanser in between that stuff. I think it would be a good game for that, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think other than that, we've both been playing Another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah.
I'm curious how much you've played of it. How much, like, are you deep into it, or where have you gotten?
I'm trying to think, like, hour wise. I think I'm like 4 hours in. I don't know.
Okay.
I've not played as much of it as I would like. I'm in the second major area.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. Like, I have not sat down to just play a bunch more. You can go look on youtube.com/irrational passions where you might be watching the video version of this podcast. Me, Cam Koenig, and Jarrett Green did a viewpoints of it, and I pretty much where you see where we get to at the end of that viewpoints is pretty much where I'm at, which is like you've kind of learned about the proverbial treasure that they're tracking down, and you're hanging out in this big city, this little city area that you're first kind of discovering for the first time. And it seems like I'm going to this jungle or like forest areas. That's where it kind of directed me. So that's like I'm like heading towards that essentially. So I'm not too much beyond where that video left off. So that's still pretty early-ish in. It's only a couple hours, I think.
Yeah, I'm basically right before where that viewpoints is at, I think.
Okay, got it. I like it. I definitely still echo my somewhat sentiments I said in that viewpoints of like for me, the Dark Souls kind of the whole thing of Another Crab Treasure is that it's supposed to be like a Souls-like, but you're also kind of in like a cartoony platformer aesthetic type game with all the crabs and stuff and the undersea vibes. I think for me, the Dark Souls like style combat works to an extent, but I think I quickly learned that I was just like, you know what? I think I'm more in this for the kind of fun platformer-y or almost more basic style of it. So I pretty quickly turned on a lot of the assist stuff to kind of turn down the difficulty of it. And that to me made it feel more like, a Zelda style experience that is like more online with like, those classic kind of 3D Zelda games. It very much fits in that camp for me now, having played it that way. And it made me like enjoy a lot more of that aesthetic. Cause I think the thing that like it does a good job of like evoking the Dark Souls combat with like, you having very deliberate attacks and having those windows you need to hit of how you do that stuff. And like, there's obviously no stamina. So it's like, you're not really managing too much of that. But I think the thing that I liked about, specifically Soul games, and obviously the biggest one I played was Elden Ring, was, that game has different classes, different weapon styles, a whole lot more going on in like an RPG sense, where this game doesn't really have that, right? Like it has just like the crab you get your little sword fork early on, and that's kind of the play style you have, and like the mixing up of it comes from like, you get the proverbial shells that you put on the crab that will let you do different unique abilities to the shells. But they don't like dramatically change up the moment to moment combat in some respects. So it was definitely like a thing where it's just like, okay, they're evoking the moment to moment combat, but they don't have kind of the depth that's there, so to speak. So So that was enough to kind of like be like, okay, I get this. That's cool. That that experience is there for folks who want it. But I'm just gonna put this all down and then make this feel more like just like a fun 3D kind of Zelda style experience that fits more my vibe that I want to and how I want to kind of act like be active in this game, I guess, or whatever. And that works for me, and I do enjoy it at that level, even without like that it being like too much like a Dark Souls. But I know you're much more in the Dark Souls camp than I am in some ways. So I was curious how you're feeling about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I just got that like super move mechanic that you get from beating like the third boss, and that seems to be like something that is going to be a major thing. I remember when I first started it, and you fight this first boss, and it's like before you like, or like right when you kind of get your first shell.
Yeah.
And the shells are like these swappable things that have durability and are going to get damaged and destroyed. So like you're kind of constantly going through them,
jumping through them.
very intentionally, and they all have like a magic ability that you can use.
And they're all pretty fun.
Yeah, they're really cool and really unique. So like doing that first boss before you get your first shell, and it's just like, all right, or like right when you get it, and you don't have the magic ability yet, and I'm just like just dying over and over again, like, all right, I don't know like where we're supposed to go with this. And then getting to the second and third, it's like, okay, now I have these different abilities with different shells, and like some are more magic intensive, some are more physical, some are more defensive. Most of them are damage dealing. And swapping shells throughout like a boss room while you're fighting a boss is also kind of really cool.
Yeah.
And so now you're using like these magic charges to use your special, like your super ability, to use your shell ability to like dynamically kind of swap between things and have different abilities that you're using differently. And as like a Souls game, which it like really much it feels like for sure, like even like fucking puts on letterboxing when you lock onto enemies. Which I think is kind of funny. It has like this jumping aspect to it that like
it's
most
platforming.
of the Souls games. Yeah, and there's like a little flutter jump thing that you can do like Yoshi style, which is kind of neat. I like what they're doing. I like that it doesn't just feel like a Souls game, which I feel like a lot of indie games do. And I appreciate the production value as well. Like,
it's beautiful, really cool, colorful game, and all the voice acting is like really good. A lot of really funny like dialogue. Like, a character you meet pretty early on, which is what immediate favorite was like the moon snail, who like gives you some early abilities. Like he kind of introduces like some of the magic abilities and the shell abilities, and then he also does become at a point you can go to and like spend like the crystals you're collecting throughout you either get them from defeating certain bosses or you find them out in the world. You can use those to like go essentially like upgrade and get like you have like a skill tree for your character for Krill. And like that does seem it's gonna expand more. Like I got it right before I got it during that the viewpoints, but I didn't really use it much. Was like you do get a parry ability. Yes. You get like
bring up next.
You get like a ground slam, and there's like some extra abilities to use through that you'll get for that. But like again, it feels very much like there's a Souls style combat to it, but then it is juxtaposed by like it feels kind of like that kind of more, almost like N64 to PS2 era like 3D platformer, but also has like a skill tree in there, so there's like a little bit of like that aspect to it too, and like I think it has that vibe as well. So I think like that's the side of it that jives with me more than the Souls stuff.
Sure, it has huge PS2 game energy. Like,
yes,
for real,
100%.
I like as well. So like, and that plus like mechanics and stuff that I'm kind of into, right? Like, I don't always need as much pushback as Souls games give me, specifically non-From Souls games. Like, when I'm playing a From game, I'm like, all right, I'm getting the best of the best vis-a-vis level design. So I kind of I'm in for it.
That's you're going in with that ready, and it's going to be getting that experience.
Like, they also have like a very specific flavor of bullshit that they like to throw at you, of like as far as like dudes right behind corners or exploding things or like things that are auto going to kill you or enemies that just eat you and you die. Like, so like everyone that does the like kind of formula of a Souls game has a little bit of their own flavor that they're bringing to it, and
Yeah.
sometimes like that doesn't always jive with me, like Lords of the Fallen and stuff like that. I did play like Lies of P last year. That I never really got to talk about, but like that game's great, and I do think that that game does a really good job of like emulating the From experience
Yeah.
with its own little flavor on top. And this is kind of more in that. It's like they're bringing their own flavor to it, that PS2-ness to it.
Yep.
And I'm digging that. I am really appreciating that. So
Same.
I want to keep playing. It's just one of those things where I've not been playing a lot of video games lately, but
Yeah, or there's like one particular one I play way too much of, and then never get around.
That's
to playing
actually
anything
way
else.
more accurate. I have a blast furnace that I need to grind for right
exactly.
now, and I'm
I need
wasting time.
there's the shiny roll I need to get. I just haven't got it yet. Come on. Anyway,
there's the obligatory Destiny
there's
reference for the episode.
there's your Destiny 2 check boxed and done. But yeah, I do really like it. It's a game I definitely I will get back to and want to play more of. And I play that little viewpoints and I've been playing it on PC on Steam, but I know it's playable on Steam Deck now, so that's probably gonna that'll probably be when I get back to it, that'll probably be where I end up playing some of it, is just booting that up on there and just playing a bunch, playing a little bit more and trying to get deeper into it, because it does seem like it apparently, like, I've not seen, but I know, like, not to get too spoilers, but like, when you get that, I think it is that third boss, which is like the first, like, that's the real major boss that you fight. Like, it definitely takes
of
like
that area, it feels
it definitely, like, narrative wise, like, takes a turn and like has like so a lot of different stuff going on. You're just like, oh shit, and like
it's like, oh, this is what this game's about, basically.
Oh yeah, this definitely gives it like a darker tone in an interesting way that I'm like here for. And like, there's a little bit of that at the end of the viewpoints too. Like when you get into that next zone, that's like almost feels like a big hub area to an extent. Like there's like a story sequence that is very entertaining that plays out towards the end of that viewpoints that was quite fun and has a little bit of that vibe again. And that seems like that'll be a thing that continues throughout the game that I want to see more of. And like, so that just seems like fun. But yeah, definitely gonna jump back into it. So maybe next episode. Well, I don't know about next episode because against again the Destiny
Paper Mario, dude.
Paper Mario
and Destiny. Yeah,
that's gonna be popping off soon. So maybe that'll be a later in the summer thing to
I'm gonna try and knock it out
to
before Paper Mario. So hopefully I'll be able to talk about it. But
that's not a bad idea.
If you're into it, like into the idea of what we're saying, like a PS2 Souls game that's like kind of silly and has like a very unique aesthetic, you should definitely try it. I think you'll really like it.
It's definitely worth trying. It is on, I believe it is on Game Pass. So if you're an Xbox Game Pass person out there, you can play it. But it is on everything else. Like I said, I'm playing on PC, on Steam. It's on Switch.
I'm playing on PlayStation 5. So.
Yeah, it's on PS5 and all that stuff too. So definitely, I definitely recommend it. It's a fun time. Even from the little bit I played, and again, you can scale it. So if you want that more Souls-like experience, you can just play it out as at the gate. But there's also fun accessibility options. And one I didn't show in the dang viewpoints, which I wish I did, is one is more just like a joke. But there's literally, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's literally an option in the accessibilities is just give Krill a gun, and it just turns your shell into a fucking Glock gun. And you can literally just go into your you just have a big ass full sized human gun coming out as a shell for Krill, and when you go into your shell, it just shoots bullets and I think it just one shots everything in the game. So you could
funny,
it was I think it was like an Easter egg bit that they made for not Easter full on Easter, but like an April Fool's like joke or bit they did on social media one year, and then people liked it so much they just made it a legit thing in the game.
It's in the game.
It's very fun.
So
it's very funny. So you could just fuck around with that if you wanted to. But like I said, there is like
a gun, you know what I mean?
just give Krill a gun. Why not? Because you can, because it's fun. And just like a lot of dumb fun writing because it's all underwater themed, and they have that, like, they do play up the Souls thing. So like when you dive, it just says a watery grave, like, and it pops up like in the Souls way. You pick up stuff. I like how it just says junk recovered whenever you pick up your Souls equivalent, because they're supposed to be like microplastics. So just a lot of fun, silly little things like that too in the game across the board. So it's very fun. Definitely worth checking out for sure. But yeah, any other games or last minute things you want to talk before we get out of here?
I played the Princess Peach Showtime demo. I mentioned it earlier. Seems cool. Really good music. I wanted to give a shout out in particular.
Okay,
Like great
nice.
music, great VO. I think it might be like a different voice for Peach. Than,
Yeah, I think I heard that too. That there's like a new voice actress for Peach for
which
that
is
game.
big. You know, like
Yeah,
Peach has I think been the same for like at least 10 years.
So
Or
long.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember if Mario Wonder had a new Peach VO actress or not. I think it
I
might
feel like
have.
it didn't, but I don't know.
Maybe it didn't. I can't remember if it did or not. I know pretty
And
much all the other characters did though, from what I remember.
I was peeking back into Hades. It was the only other thing I wanted to mention. Because
Yeah.
I do not have a way to play Hades 2 early access at the moment.
Yeah, and it's
And-
very quickly taken over the internet today for sure.
Yeah, I'm like legitimately considering buying a Steam Deck like this week so I can play Hades 2.
It's a good way. It would be a good way,
so yeah.
really great way to play that game. I'm for sure.
Yeah.
I'm probably
I
gonna
think so.
try and play a little bit myself this week. And we'll probably have a video up on
We'll have a video.
Irrational
for sure, yeah.
Passions YouTube channel soon here, just playing some of that just because we can. And that's an exciting release out of nowhere. I'm sorry to every other indie video game coming out soon, because there's another one this week that I was actually really looking forward to called Animal Well. It's out later this week, and now I feel really bad for that because it's like a really small team making kind of like one of their like little passion project kind of games. And now it's just like, hey, Hades 2 is coming out like 3 days before us. Oh God. So
Yeah.
we
We kind of knew it was coming because they did the test.
They did-
and
they
like,
did
it's gonna
test
come out
recently.
soon after. It's gonna happen. So
Yeah, and it turns out it was very soon after, and they just kind of dropped it
3
today.
days later.
Yeah, they just straight up just dropped it today, and we're like, boom, here it is. Go play it on Steam Early Access.
And our early access has more content than the entire original game. No worries.
Poof. But yeah, we'll talk about that in some video soon here, as well as other stuff. Again, plan is we'll be back for another episode probably in that early mid-June, depending on when we get depending on if we get a Nintendo Direct or maybe we get some other announcements, maybe Nintendo related, and of course, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door,
Yeah.
just a few weeks, like a week or two away.
Potentially a video for that as well.
Yeah, we
At
could
the very
do.
least.
We could do some
talk about
some other videos, but yeah, we'll for sure be talking about it next episode for Nintendoland. But for now, that's gonna do it. Thanks everybody for hanging out as always, listening to us talk about Nintendo and whatever else. We'll have some more content here on the main Irrational Passions channel soon. Always thank you for checking out our YouTube channel here if you're watching the video version or if you're listening on podcast services, wherever we're at. That's always appreciated. If you want to hear more from me and Auri, again, we have that youtube.com/Helm to Tower. I know there's not probably a lot of cross section for Nintendo fans to Destiny 2 fans, but hey, who
knows?
Both of us are, so hey, who knows?
Yeah.
So if you're just fans of us somehow for whatever reason, we can just
For
hear
whatever
us.
reason.
You just hear us talk about that video game on that other channel, youtube.com/Helm to Tower, or on podcast services as well. Look for Helm to Tower podcast. But yeah, thanks everybody as always, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.